In the world of ancient mysteries, there exists a story that has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries. A tale of grandeur, power, and hidden truths concealed beneath the sands of time. The world as we know it may never be the same again, for within the chambers of the lost tomb of Queen Cleopatra lie the keys to a history we thought we knew, but is now poised to astonish us all. Greats of the written word William Shakespeare, Antony and Cleopatra, and George Bernard Shaw, Caesar and Cleopatra, both remarked that Cleopatra's tragic life and death were so emotionally charged that they nearly felt like works of fiction. She has, in point of fact, had an influence on a great number of creative individuals for hundreds of years. She is often referenced in plays, films, and operas. More lately, she has been able to reach new audiences with the use of television, ads, and even video games. According to the findings of a recent discovery, there is renewed reason for confidence that we may be closer than ever before to locating the last burial place of Queen Cleopatra, who reigned as the last pharaoh of Egypt. But who exactly was she, and to what extent did Cleopatra figure into the making of her legacy? Cleopatra Philopator was born in Alexandria, Egypt, in the year 69 BC. Her full name was Cleopatra Philopator. From the year 51 BC to the year 30 BC, she served as the final pharaoh of the ancient Egyptian empire. She passed away in 30 BC. After their father, Ptolemy Auletes, died away, convention dictated that she should marry her brother Ptolemy. Because of this, she had no choice but to marry her brother. When he passed away, she took over as Egypt's only pharaoh, despite the fact that the two of them had co-ruled Egypt for a period of time prior to his death. Despite the fact that her family was of Greek descent, Cleopatra was interested in learning Egyptian. She wanted to be able to persuade her people that she was the ancient Egyptian goddess Isis and engage with them on a more intimate level. Greek was the language that was used between the Ptolemies. Julius Caesar and Cleopatra had a romantic connection, and Cleopatra became pregnant with Julius Caesar's son, Ptolemy, 9 months after the couple first met. Ptolemy Caesar was born in 47 BC. Cleopatra had an adulterous affair with the Roman statesman Mark Antony after the murder of Caesar in 44 BC. She ultimately had 3 children with him. Cleopatra shared the position of Mark Antony that Caesar's rightful successor, Gaius Octavius, sometimes known as Augustus, ought not to be in command of the Romans. This ultimately culminated to the Battle of Actium, in which Augustus' troops triumphed against Mark Antony's, who subsequently committed himself after their victory. As a consequence of this, Cleopatra, who was said to have bathed in donkey milk to preserve her beauty, took her own life at the age of 39 by chewing the head off of a poisonous snake. As soon as Egypt became a Roman province, Emperor Augustus was able to declare it to be a Roman province, and the rest, as they say, is history. It is reported that Emperor Augustus gave his approval for Cleopatra to be buried next to her lover, Mark Antony, together with their 3 children. These children were saved and brought up as Roman citizens. Cleopatra died shortly after Mark Antony. This indicates how well esteemed Cleopatra was, even by those who were actively working against her. It is also possible to deduce that Cleopatra and her lover were mummified, which is a process for preserving human remains that entails drying out the human remains to prevent them from rotting. This would be in keeping with her status as a pharaoh. This desiccation technique was performed by carefully removing the majority of the internal organs without causing any harm to the cadaver's surface, and by generously applying natron, a salt-like material with high hygroscopic qualities. The brain, for example, was removed by dragging it out through the nostrils, and a discreet hole was cut in the side of the corpse to remove the internal organs, with the exception of the heart, which the Egyptians considered to be the key to the afterlife. These procedures were carried out to avoid the body from becoming disfigured. The embalming was a lengthy procedure that lasting up to 70 days. It was either decided to externally preserve these organs and then reintroduce them into the body cavity, or else they were placed in canopic jars and buried with the corpse. After that, the dead body was wrapped in linen, buried beside a number of the deceased person's possessions, and then sealed. Then, where is the tomb of Cleopatra? The location of Cleopatra's tomb is another topic that has been the subject of some debate. Egyptologist and former Minister of State for Antiquities Affairs Zahi Hawass originally hypothesized that it was buried under the Taposiris Magna Temple, also known as the Great Tomb of Osiris, in a region not far from Alexandria, which served as the capital of ancient Egypt. Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a minister counselor in charge of cultural affairs at the Dominican Embassy in Egypt, made the discovery in 2019 of mummies, Isis figurines, and coins depicting the figures of Cleopatra and Antony in the same location, which gave more evidence in support of Hawass' assertion. The Dominican Embassy in Egypt is located in Egypt. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Hawass decided to forsake his idea that the tomb is located under Osiris' Great Tomb and instead declare that Egyptians worshipped in temples rather than interring their dead there. What's new about the tomb's location? Kathleen Martinez made the startling discovery in the beginning of November 2022 that the Great Tomb of Osiris conceals a tunnel that is over a mile long and stands over 6 feet in height. Many people believe that the tunnel leads to the entrance to Cleopatra's tomb. However, there is evidence that this might be an aqueduct because of how much it resembles the Tunnel of Eupalinos, which is an aqueduct on Samos, Greece that goes back to the 6th century BC. This aqueduct was constructed in the 6th century BC. It is also essential to keep in mind that a portion of the tunnel leading to the temple is buried under the waters of the Mediterranean. The discovery of comparable objects that were found in the same area lends credence to the idea that there is, to use an expression, light at the end of the tunnel. This, of course, does not mean that it does not lead to the tomb of Cleopatra. However, there is a little caveat that should be considered. Does Cleopatra want her tomb to be discovered? Cleopatra outsmarted everyone and made sure that her human remains and Mark Antony's were hidden from the Romans and their descendants forever, according to Dr. Martinez. There's no denying Cleopatra's intelligence. She could speak 9 languages, was well-versed in mathematics and politics, and formed alliances with some of the most influential people in antiquity. However, she also knew exactly how she wanted to be remembered, as a beautiful goddess in life, as an immortal in death, and most importantly, with her remains eternally buried and concealed. While she may not be luxuriating in an Osiris-inspired afterlife in the field of rushes, she endured in our collective consciousness for a longer duration than Jesus Christ. Her grave is still securely concealed from view as of the time of going to press, and her attraction shows no signs of waning. The secrets we've uncovered today have offered a tantalizing glimpse into the past, leaving us hungry for further exploration and discovery. What other mysteries lie hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, waiting for intrepid explorers to unearth them? The story of Cleopatra's lost tomb is just one chapter in the ever-evolving book of history, and it reminds us that our understanding of the past is constantly evolving.